Welcome to the Bloomingdale Public Library's program on using web browsers. A web browser is a tool you use to access the internet. In order to make the most out of the internet, it's important to understand the basics of using a web browser. And there are many different web browsers, like Chrome, which we're using right now, Safari, which you can use on a Mac product like an iPhone or a MacBook, Firefox, which is an open source platform web browser. Looks like this. And the one that you may see on a Windows 10 computer by default is Microsoft Edge. All of them allow you to view websites, but they have a different look and feel to each of them. So picking one will depend mostly on your personal preference. When you open your browser, at the top of the window, you'll see the address bar. This is where you'll type the web address of the page that you want to visit. Now, if you've been to a website before, your browser may suggest it or even automatically complete the address for you. If you see the address you're looking for in the suggestions, you can click it or press enter when you're done typing. So here we have Etsy. If I were to type in .com, the first suggestion here is Etsy, your place to buy and sell all things handmade, Etsy.com. If we were to select that, it'll take us directly to the website. Now let's go back. We press the back button here. If I just typed in Etsy, now you can see that we've visited it before. It does try to populate the address here with .com at the end. You can also try any of these other suggestions if you're looking for something a little different. Like if you want to know the value of Etsy stock, you can select that. Or if you just wanted a Google search, you can select the second option there and it'll take you to a Google search page. Most of the time you're going to go from one page to another by clicking on links. To go back to the page you were just on, you can click the back button. To return to the first page, you can click the forward button. And this is the back button here at the top left. This is the forward button. And then you also have a reload button to reload the page if it didn't load properly. If you see a link you want to click but you don't want to navigate away from the page you're on, you can open the link in a new tab. Just right click on the link and select Open in New Tab. This opens the page behind the current page. So the current page, if you go over to here, this is the second tab. Now let's go over that one more time. We only have one tab open now. You right click on the link and open link in New Tab. And then a new tab is created behind the first tab. Now to close the tab, just click on the X at the top right of that tab. If you're on a website that you know you'll want to revisit later, or a website that you go to often, you can bookmark it by clicking on this star and adding the bookmark. It'll give you an option here to rename it, and if you have specific folders that you'd like to create for your bookmarks, you can do so by choosing another folder, but I'm just going to leave it as is and then select done, and you'll know that you have a bookmark on this page, and you'll know that you have bookmarked this page when you see a blue star here. Most browsers have a button right next to the address bar that lets you easily bookmark any site. So this is the Google Chrome version, and you can always seek it out by clicking on the three dots and going down to the bookmarks option here. And then as you see, if you do have a few options here, and then there's National Geographic right there. For Firefox, if I were to go to, let's just say I'm going to Reddit or even Wikipedia. Let's go to Wikipedia, and you want to bookmark this page. It's very similar to the Google Chrome option here. You do have a star. you would select that and you get a blue star. Just click done and then you have it there, and if you want to access it again, you just have to click on this icon here and select bookmarks, and then you should see Wikipedia right here. Once you've bookmarked a page, you'll be able to go to it again. As I mentioned before, in Chrome you'll click the settings button, select bookmarks, and then select the website you're looking for from the list. Currently there's only one option here, but as you continue web browsing, you'll find that you might want to add more bookmarks, and then you'll start seeing a list of bookmarks beyond just the National Geographic bookmark we have here. Even if you don't bookmark a site, there's still a way to find it again later. Your browser keeps track of all the sites you visit in a feature called History. You can access the history by going to the settings button, hovering down to history, and you can see the different places that you visited during this session. Depending on how you have your web browser set up, you might even see some of the bookmarks right below the address bar. But as you may remember from before, you can begin typing in the address bar, and your browser will make suggestions based on your history and the bookmarks that you have already in the browser. The locations of these buttons and other options may vary a little depending on which browser you're using, but generally you should be able to perform all the same actions no matter which browser you decide to use. Now if you want to maximize your web browser so it takes up the entire screen, you would click on this button here when it is not maximized. And then if you click it again like I just did, it returns it to the window size. If you want to get it out of the way but you don't want to completely close it, you can use the minimize button here, and it'll put it down here at the bar, the Google Chrome icon here. If you want to retrieve it, you just click on it, minimize it, retrieve it, and then if you click on this button, maximize it, window, and then of course the X if you want to close the entire web browser. For many years, especially in the early 2000s, there was one browser that almost everyone used, and that was Microsoft's Internet Explorer. If you used the internet at that time, you probably clicked an icon that looked like a large E. In the past, Internet Explorer was pre-installed on any PC you bought. Starting in the mid-2000s, other software companies introduced new browsers, including Mozilla Firefox, which looks like this when you open it up at first. We have Google Chrome now, which looks like this, which we were using a little earlier. And now even Microsoft Edge, which is Microsoft's new web browser from the last few years. Basically, if you have a PC with Windows 10, you'll have Microsoft Edge as your web browser instead. If you have a Mac, which I don't have right now, to demonstrate, you would have Safari by default. And it's always a good idea to keep at least 2 web browsers on your computer or mobile device. This way, if a website isn't working correctly, you can try opening the page in a different web browser. More often than not, this trick can solve a lot of problems you might encounter online. So which is the best web browser for you? Well, as you can see here, it really depends on what kind of device you're using. So if you have Windows 10, it's not recommended to use Internet Explorer because it is still out there in the wild. It's highly recommended to use Google Chrome or Firefox. And Microsoft Edge is not too far behind. At the library, we do have Chrome, Firefox, and Edge installed on our computers. If you have Windows 7 or 8, Microsoft Edge isn't necessarily recommended. Google Chrome and Firefox are still the main recommendations. If you have a Mac, you can use Chrome, you can also use Firefox, but it's highly recommended that you use Safari. If you have an iPhone, Chrome, and Safari, but not so much Firefox. And then if you have an Android phone, it's highly recommended that you use Chrome or Firefox. If you have a Google account, you can even sync your saved passwords and browsing history across multiple devices. So you could have it on your Windows PC and your Android phone. And because it downloads updates automatically, you'll always be protected from current security threats and viruses online. So if you wanted to turn on the sync to do so, you would click here and then you would sign in with your email address, your Google account. If you're using an iPhone, iPad, or Mac, try Safari. Safari is the default web browser for Mac computers and iOS devices, including the iPhone and iPad. Another feature of a web browser is the ability to print directly from their settings button here. If we were to select this print button here, you can then print these pages to a printer. Currently, I do not have a printer installed with this particular PC, but we do have an option to save as a PDF or Microsoft Print to PDF. Either one will get you the same results. So this is what it will look like when you print it. So as you can see at the bottom here, it doesn't say print, but it does say save. But if you were actually sending this print job to a printer, it would say print. So BPL Bulletin, this seems like a good file name. We'll save it, and it's going to save as a PDF on the desktop. There it is. If we open it and you don't have Adobe Reader, by default it's going to open up in one of your web browsers. Now you can utilize Microsoft Edge, you can utilize Google Chrome, you can utilize Firefox, and it should be fine. You'll be able to view this PDF within the web browser. And PDFs generally are viewable not only in web browsers, but Adobe Reader and Microsoft Word as well. If you go over to the settings option here, the button at the top right with the three dots, you have a zoom feature that allows you to zoom in and zoom out. So if a web page is a little too small for you or a little too large, you can make an adjustment by using these zoom tools. You can also go to full screen, and as you can see, if you press F11 you can exit full screen. But even through full screen you can use the arrows on the keyboard to go up and down, and then when you're ready to escape, just press F11. Now I found another page that has a PDF file, and if I select it, you'll see that Google Chrome opens the PDF natively. It doesn't have to use an Adobe Reader. And at the left here you have a thumbnail of each page, and then on the right you have a larger version of that thumbnail so that you can actually read it. You can even zoom in and zoom out from here. You can fit to width or fit to page. You can even rotate. And then if you want to download, you can click on this arrow. And then it'll allow you to save. You can decide where you want to save it to. If there's a particular folder that you'd like to have it in, I'll just keep it in the desktop. I'll save it there. And then you see at the bottom here, the bottom left, that it's saved. And if you want to look at all the things that you've downloaded, you can press that show all button that I just did, and you can look at the different things that have already been have already been downloaded. One more thing regarding downloads, if you were to go to the settings button there, if you click on downloads, you can see what you have in your downloads history. I only see one item. If I were to select show in folder, it will open up a window and give us downloads that we have in the downloads folder. And as you can see, these are some downloads. We're going to go back to the Chrome Web Store and then to extensions, and you can see quite a few different options here. Some of the more fancy or familiar or more popular extensions are at the top. And then you also have some suggestions from Firefox. I'm going to go over just a few, like for example, Dark Reader. Dark mode for every website. Take care of your eyes, use dark theme for night and daily browsing. So let's go ahead and select that one. And if you want to read about it, you want to get the overview, you want to watch a video regarding Dark Reader, you can do so. But essentially what it is an extension that allows you to, once you have it installed, which we just installed it, it'll pull up right here. If you want to look at it, here's a few options. You can make it in light mode or dark mode. Now you don't see anything on this particular page, but let's go ahead and navigate to another page so we can see what it does. So let's say, for example, I will go back to, let's go back to the Etsy webpage. And if we were to go to Dark Reader and select light mode, you can see that it's changed the background to a lighter mode. You can also adjust the brightness and contrast. And you can also use it to invert certain pages, but not all of the pages. And you can also just turn it off completely or turn it back on. So it's a nice little feature there. The reason that some people may want to take advantage of Dark Reader is to help protect their eyes over time when they're doing tasks on their computer. These screens tend to be very bright and it might give you some eye strain over time. So it's nice to have a Dark Reader available. So there are many Google Chrome extensions available here at the Chrome Web Store. And if you ever wanted to get here and you weren't really sure how to get there, all you would have to type in is Chrome Web Store, or you can just type in Google Chrome extensions in the address bar here, and then just type in whatever you need. If you're looking into different categories, if you're looking for certain types of things, you can drop down in the categories and look through the different ones that are available. There are shopping extensions that help you compare pricing of historical pricing of a particular item, for example. Honey does that. Camelizer does that as well for Amazon, if we can find that. So for example, the Camelizer, you can look at a graph here to show you historic pricing on a particular item that's on Amazon, which can be very useful. So if you need a certain thing, you can wait until the prices are reasonable if you are into that kind of thing. Many options. I'd say stick with ones that are at least 4 stars and up and have many downloads and have reviews on them, because that's the other thing you'd want to keep in mind, because there are some that are just new extensions that don't have any ratings, don't have any downloads, so you'd have to just keep that in mind. It's usually best to kind of research the extensions that you want to look into, make sure that there are reviews of them, that other people are using them and that they're fine. Something like Google Translate, because it is created by Google, you'll see the G there. You can add that if you want to translate text from different countries that you would like translated into various languages. You can do so, selecting English here. And it won't be perfect, but it'll do a pretty good job of translating a lot of the basic text, and then you can return it to Japanese. And that's just one example here. I mean, you can go to a Spanish language newspaper and try to translate it into English if you wanted to, and or vice versa. You can change some of these to English or to another language. Another extension, while there are a few different ones, here's just one that I'm aware of, Mercury Reader. This one allows you to clear away a lot of the clutter from the articles that you're reading by just clicking a button. So once we have that installed, which we do now, we have it selected here, Mercury Reader at the top. I'm just going to go ahead and go over to an article that I have already here on the BBC travel page regarding pho, the humble soup that caused an outrage. We click on the Mercury Reader, and there you have it. There's no images behind it. It's just very simple reading. It essentially erase any other clutter, and if you have a Kindle, you can send it to a Kindle if you'd like. You can set it up. So once again, that is the Mercury Reader. I believe there are a few other kinds right now, but I'm not aware of them, unfortunately. And of course, you can just toggle it back to the original page, and if it looks a little funny, it does. You can reload the page, so it'll reload back to the way it was by clicking on the reload button here. Another good extension for Google Chrome is the UBlock Origin extension, which blocks ads, trackers, and malware. It's efficient in using CPU power and memory. So let's go to this web page. And as you see here, I'm on pcmag.com, and they want me to allow notifications. I don't want to, so I'm just going to say no. And I'm going to exit out of this. I just used this website because I heard that it was a good example of one that has lots of ads. And if we were to go over to the extensions, one more thing to note: if you don't want to always pick this button here to get to these extensions, you can pin them directly on here so that you can always see them here. So for example, Dark Reader, you can just put that back on if you don't want to look at the bright screen, or you can turn it off. And currently right now, UBlock Origin is disabled, and so you can see there's advertisements right here, and there's quite a few different things going on. If I were to turn this on and then refresh the page, you'll see that that advertisement on this side is no longer there. And you can see that the number 47 here shows you that there were 47 elements blocked on this page. And if you wanted to look at a little more information, you could do so. Just by default, pressing this button will take care of a lot of things. You can see here the advertisement has returned. So a very useful extension indeed. Another thing that I'd like to go over with UBlock Origin is if you were to go to youtube.com, for example, and let's say I wanted to watch a video about an adorable puppy and a duck. As you can see, it started up right away, and that you see there's no ads, any indicators of an ad that's going to show up in the video. If I were to select another video, it'll start up automatically as well. And that concludes today's Using Web Browsers program. If you ever have any other questions regarding web browsers or anything computer related, feel free to come by Computer Services in the lab at the Bloomingdale Public Library, and you can also have a few free resources on our website as well. If you were to click on the Learn button here and then online courses, you can take advantage of a few different resources here, including lynda.com, which has thousands of high-quality video tutorials taught by respected authorities in their fields. I highly encourage you to sign up directly with them using your library card number and password or PIN, and you can have these tutorials free at your fingertips. Thank you very much for joining us today, and have a great day.